Before you start practicing applying makeup, it's important to first understand how to use and control your airbrush gun and compressor. In order to hold the airbrush steady throughout the application process, I recommend holding the gun with the index finger pointing towards the tip. You'll then want to use the rest of your fingers for support to hold the gun upright. When positioning the airbrush gun towards the face, you should always maintain a distance of 4 to 6 inches. The closer the airbrush gun is held to the face, the denser the coverage will look. Airbrush makeup always produces the best finish when coverage is gradually built up in layers. In order to avoid applying too much product at once, maintaining a consistent distance is key. Proper hand motion is very important as well. Always use small circular motions or back and forth passes, making sure to always keep your hand moving. Stopping and starting your hand movement can result in creating uneven patches of coverage. bePRO's Expert Airbrush Compressor is an auto stop-start system. This means that the airflow does not start until the airbrush gun lever is pushed down. This lever controls the amount of product that flows from the airbrush gun. The further the lever is pulled back, the more product is released. The turn knob on the airbrush compressor itself controls the strength of the airflow. To get started, first adjust the strength of your airflow on the compressor by turning the knob clockwise. This is also known as PSI. As you increase the PSI, you will gradually see and feel more air pressure. This in turn will release more product from the airbrush gun. For most face makeup applications, a low to medium setting is all that is needed. It is easy to over-apply the makeup if you have your airbrush compressor set too high, so always start on a lower setting and adjust the setting higher as needed. Once you have adjusted the PSI on the compressor, you'll now want to start the airflow through the airbrush gun itself. Gently press down on the lever until the airflow begins. Once you have the airbrush gun facing the area of the face you'd like to start from, gently pull back on the lever to release product. Now that you understand how to use and adjust your airbrush gun and compressor, it's time to learn the step-by-step process of applying bePRO's airbrush makeup. Before each makeup application, be sure to properly cleanse the face of any oil or existing makeup. To ensure that the airbrush makeup adheres to the skin and doesn't wear off easily, it is best to avoid heavy moisturizers that do not absorb easily into the skin. bePRO Cosmetics has 2 primers that were specially formulated to be used under airbrush makeup. These primers can be used alone or over moisturizer and help to create a smooth, even canvas for the airbrush makeup to be applied over. To apply primer, first start by shaking the bottle thoroughly. Next, set your air pressure to a low to medium setting. Pour 3 to 5 drops of primer into the airbrush gun cup, and then gently press down on the airbrush lever to control the airflow. Once the airbrush gun is positioned 4 to 6 inches from the face, gently pull back on the airbrush lever until the desired amount of product is released. Using circular motions, apply 1 layer of product to the entire face. If needed, additional product can be layered over areas that have fine lines, pores, or rough texture. It is generally recommended to conceal significant blemishes or discoloration prior to applying the airbrush makeup. Airbrush makeup is not a malleable product, and once it is set onto the skin, it is difficult to move without creating uneven patches. For this reason, anything that needs to be blended onto the skin with fingers or a sponge should be applied prior to the airbrush makeup. Make sure that the product is completely blended and that there are no visible edges that show where the concealer starts and stops. Determining your correct foundation shade is done in a very similar way to traditional makeup. Start by swatching each shade along the jawline. The shade that blends into the skin the closest is what I refer to as your base tone. This shade can sometimes be a perfect match, but often a few drops of another foundation shade will need to be added to adjust the darkness or the undertone. Most foundation applications require between 5 to 10 drops of airbrush makeup, depending on the level of coverage needed. Start by shaking the bottle thoroughly and then pour 4 to 5 drops of your base tone into the airbrush gun cup. To mix multiple shades together, I recommend using a technique called back bubbling. This technique is achieved by placing the tip of your finger over the tip of the airbrush gun and gently pulling the lever back to release airflow. Once the product has been poured into the cup and completely blended, you will want to now determine the area of the face you'd like to start from. A common technique is to start on the forehead and move around the face in a clockwise direction. Once you have the airbrush gun positioned towards the face, gently press down on the lever to start the airflow. Next, gently pull back on the lever to release the product. Using circular motions, apply a few light layers to the entire face and then analyze any additional areas that need further coverage. To highlight areas of the face and add radiance to the skin, bePRO features 3 different illuminator shades that can be used alone or mixed into foundation. To apply as a highlighter, start by shaking the bottle thoroughly and setting your air pressure to low. Pour 2 to 3 drops into the airbrush gun cup and then gently press the lever down to start the airflow. Once the airbrush gun is positioned towards the face, gently pull back on the lever to release the product. Using light back and forth motions, apply the illuminator to the cheekbones and any other areas you would like to give a luminous glow. Now that the complexion has been completely evened out, it's time to add a soft flush of color using one of bePRO's 6 cheek tints. To apply, first start by shaking the bottle thoroughly and setting your air pressure to low. Pour 2 to 3 drops into the airbrush gun cup and then gently press the lever down to start the airflow. Once the airbrush gun is positioned towards the face, gently pull back on the lever to release product. Using small, circular hand motions, concentrate first on the apples of the cheeks and then blend the color back towards the hairline. To give added longevity to your makeup, make sure to try one of bePRO Cosmetics setting products. To create a matte-looking finish and help control oil on the skin, set the airbrush makeup with a small amount of bePRO's Flawless Finish Powder. To protect from humidity and keep makeup looking fresh and vibrant all day long, finish your look by spraying a fine mist of Lights Camera Action setting spray over the entire face.